welcome to the Xsolla Diamond Club special panel about the future of consumer gaming events. So if you'd like to, just like as a general spiel, if you'd like to get access to more events like this, join a club where you can connect with industry colleagues from around the world. Check out the Xsolla Diamond Club where you can join for free today. Link in the description below. Okay, cool. We've done all the general spiel stuff. Hello, everyone. So we've got Justin, Rami, Kyle, and Stephanie here with us today, and I'm just going to let them introduce themselves. So Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind going first.
Sure. I'm Stephanie. I'm the CEO and one of the 3 founders of Indiecade, which is an international festival of independent games. We're entering our 18th year of existence, and we're all about it's independently organized. We're not corporate backed. We're run by alumni who are also game developers, and it's all about the future of games for us. And what more perfect than the future of gaming events panel to be on today with such lovely friends.
Hey.
Take it away.
Robbie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Rami Ismail. I'm a game developer, and I accidentally sort of rolled into event organization trying to create a digital live streamed games event that was live translated into 8 languages. I was lucky that I had no idea what I was getting into when we started that, because it turns out that's really hard. But I've been running Gamedev World in its various forms and permutations since that started. I'm also a very common public speaker around the world, and I attend pretty much every games event every year, except for the past year. Obviously, it's been a little different.
Cool. Awesome. Kyle, let's jump to you next.
Hey, thanks. I'm Kyle Marsden-Kish. I'm the Global Gaming Director for ReadPop. So I oversee all the PAX events in the US and parts of Australia, and then as well as EGX in the UK. For us, it's just about representing the community. That's the fun of it, the love of games, the love of the industry, just kind of making sure we give it a platform and give everyone a safe place to hang out, have fun, and celebrate their fandoms.
Cool. And lucky last, Justin.
Been in the event space for about 18 years. 14 of that, I think, is around games, and some of that is even sprinkled in publishers here and there. Currently, I am the VP of Creative for Dreamhack, one of the biggest global gaming lifestyle events in the world. We just had Dreamhack Beyond a couple of weeks ago, which was super fun and interesting. I'm sure we'll jump into that today.
Yeah, great. No worries. Well, while we're on that topic, let's jump straight into Dreamhack Beyond. What was that event like? How's that different to obviously a normal Dreamhack event? Obviously, you've gone a bit more digital with that. So I'll let you talk about it though.
Like events, it was good and bad, right? So luckily, one of the things that we wanted to do is kind of how do we come back and use this time to link a product to an actual event. So how do we actually build something that's around for the long haul rather than just this one-off, right? And so we wanted to think of how that strategically would work. So luckily, I've worked for publishers over the years, and I've also done events. So I said, okay, you know what? Let's make a game. And that kind of blends those 2 worlds. Let's make a game that has a narrative, that has a game loop, that has all these various things that you would find in a game, but put festival elements of what Dreamhack is in the game. So, for example, when you go to a physical event, you run to a booth, right? You run to this, you run to that. That's the game you want to play, right? You have kind of like this instant direction. When you jump in Dreamhack Beyond, we don't want you to run to a booth. We want you to play the story. We want you to figure out what to do and find the Easter eggs and be those narratives. And that kind of makes you find a booth by accident. So that way there's a reason for both existing. And then that way, when things come back to normal, they tie into each other from a narrative standpoint very much in terms of complementing.
Cool. So let's talk about some of the digital events that have happened over the past year first. So we had PAX Online last year, and we've started going back into more physical events. So this is blatantly being directed at you, Kyle. What are some of the types of events that have kind of come about on your end? What are some of the biggest changes that you have had transitioning back to live events?
Yeah, it's been a ride, right? We did PAX Online in October of last year. We just wrapped one up in July this past year as well. Taking different formats, different sides to it. It's been fun. I feel like the online events are great. They're awesome. You can tell awesome stories, just like Justin did. The Dreamhack Beyond was a great example of what you can do that's cool with an online event. for us, we didn't have that story component to it. We do a lot of stuff with XP, but for us, it's more of the, the community feel. So we really did a lot on Discord. That was kind of our thing that really dive into. We've always had, the PAX community on there and stuff, but writing our own scavenger hunts, getting our own stories, going through there, creating that vibe and feel that kind of when you're at that show, that community feeling is something that's hard to represent and hard to really nail down. There's nothing like actually being in person and feeling that energy, but I feel like, those moments and those things where people come together like-minded, whether behind a keyboard or, as we're trying to get back to live events itself. We've got PAX West coming up in a couple of weeks. Those are the things that those are the challenging blocks for us. You can go on different tech things, how to, portray a different game or how to get some code in patients' hands, stuff like that. And there's a lot of different ways to go about that, but kind of re-engineering the team that is so, physical, live, in the trenches, focused, flipping them over to digital, some of them not exactly their expertise, and now shaking off the rust because we're going back, get that muscle memory of how to run a live event, making sure all the check boxes are done, making sure all the everything's taken care of that, was second nature. Now it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. It's good to have your prep sheets and your tack lists.
Yeah. Well, is there any elements that are being brought over from PAX Online coming into a regular PAX? Is that the best way to put it? Or any of those events any of those aspects being carried over?
So we did a lot of stuff live, like online already, right? So we've always streamed our panels. We've always done stuff from PAX Arena. We've always done media stuff. We've worked with Steam in the past and other things, having events. So a lot of that stuff is already baked in before us. Seeing if we can get the Discord off the ground in the right way, just with the expertise that we have and how much those experts are needed on site to do their jobs as well, is a little bit of up in the air ball right now. But just trying to figure out what people liked, and if there's a way if people feel unsafe or whatnot, what can we do to have them have the PAX experience at home? And that's kind of what we're driving for. So the Discord would probably be our toughest one, but we'll be working with Steam again. We'll be doing all the other things to make sure that everyone can touch and feel the show floor from their homes as well.
Great, awesome. So I've got a question here for Rami, because your event was born out of the pandemic. Is that correct? Am I correct in that?
It grew a little before that. We preceded the pandemic by a little bit, but yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that got to us was that physical events, obviously, they have an incredible amount of energy and an incredible opportunity for people to get together, to learn from each other, to see interesting things. I always kind of grew up I grew up Dutch Egyptian, so I'm very aware of like the limitations of like visas, the limitations of being able to travel across the world. And it grew from that. And then obviously during the pandemic, the idea of digital events blew up, and we helped a lot of events sort of figure out their digital strategy as well.
Cool, awesome. So there was a proper question that I had here, and then I've completely forgotten it, just in pure form that I am. So I've got a list here. This is why I have lists and why I have scripts.
Great.
So let's go around the room. So what do you think the biggest learnings from the pandemic have been around how events operate? And Stephanie, we haven't really heard from you yet. So what do you think the biggest learnings are, or the biggest changes that we've had to adapt to have been from the pandemic? And you can specifically talk about your event as well.
Well, that gave me you gave me like a hard question. So
I'm so sorry.
Talk about their events. I'm like talking about everything. So let's see. What do I think? Well, I mean, I guess I'll talk about our event. Our event is international, as Rami's is. Our event is, has developers at the core. So our event was completely different than most of them, except for probably what Rami's doing. And so one thing that's really different is having to deal with things like time zones, and that's really super challenging. Like just the notion of like what logistics are is really different. Like a logistic is time zone, instead of like setting up a booth, it's just a really different notion. So it requires like very different expertise in terms of how you handle everything, including how you handle your community and how you handle whatever's public facing. Like it just requires a really different kind of mindset for thinking about it and different expertise. So I'm hopeful that more things stay online, but I think it's going to be a very growing area of expertise that people are building, that are like going to be a lot of young people and really energetic, and there's a lot of great potential for it. I probably didn't answer your question.
No, that's completely okay. I quite like that answer a lot more than my question. So
I will say that the one thing that I hope that stays from this, if I remember that was sort of a question, like what changed and how I hope that would change, is that obviously online events are in many ways more accessible, right? They're easier to access from anywhere in the world. They're easier to sort of like plan your day around, and absolutely it misses the energy of everybody being in the same room, and that it a super unique feeling that I've always loved about every event I've gone to. But for me, the hope is that a lot of the learnings from making this accessible to anybody in the world, no matter their wealth, no matter their circumstances, no matter their visa, no matter their passport, that they can be part of these things and really feel part of these communities. I really hope that stays. That's the one thing I'm really scared of when things go back to normal, is that we just go back to, so folks in the US or in Australia or in France or wherever can go to these events, and then from elsewhere it might be harder. I really hope that stays.
Yeah, and I just
Yeah.
want to piggyback on that, because one of the things that is so great, like for us, is like that obviously for everybody, right, is how international things are, but also there's not a really good financial model for having these online events. And so, especially for small organizations like ours, they're kind of unsustainable. So it kind of repeats the problem where you've got actually where access for people again is unsustainable. So to me, where things need to change and adapt is the industry needs to step out and be super supportive, especially of smaller events where we are meeting a really important need for the industry, but it's not, so it's a little bit different. It's very unsustainable financially, I think.
I think through challenge and risk, we showed the most lucrative options, right? The most creative kind of freedom that we actually can take an opportunity like what's happening to us and develop. So I think what the biggest learnings out of this is product development, innovation, not to remain stagnant, because we as a game industry are one of the most creative industries in the world, if not the creative, but we do have a habit of being stagnant, of lacking that creative muscles being used. And we're people, right? Creatures of habit. We all are, right? So we get caught in this copy, paste, repeat, copy, paste, and this repeat, to where we're being much more reactive than proactive. But this has forced us to be proactive, right? So from a Dreamhack standpoint, how to create a product, to Rami's point, where it's like, if you can't make a Dreamhack event, join us in this digital game, and then vice versa, right? They complement each other. So our game, Dreamhack Beyond, that'll be around for years. It's going to be a permanent thing. How do we become more than a ticket company? Oh, right, we sell tickets now. We close the door on the last day. Okay, goodbye. We'll let you know when we're selling tickets again. How do we create that year-round community and product development that also diversifies our portfolio to where if any of danger happens again, like a pandemic or not, we're ready. This takes a hit, but this doesn't. You know what I mean? And that's just smart business.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, Justin. I think what we've been thrown into, right? We're events guys, and we've done that, and we've had to be proactive about what we're doing and what we're creating and everything. And I think, obviously with doing a lot of stuff online beforehand, we continue to do so, but PAX, we'd always be in touch with Penny Arcade. We'd always be out there and stuff, and you'd see us physically a couple times a year. But some of the programs we've developed, like the Game of the Month Club, highlighting a different indie every month, discussion of them, having something at the end. PAX Speaks, a Spanish language forum for indie developers to highlight them, like making sure that we keep doing things over and over through the year, not forget about those when we go back to that kind of muscle memory of doing the events, making sure we use our voices more than maybe we could have to help the game industry. And I think that's been a really good eye-opening exercise for a lot of people on my team.
I do have a question about that. So do you think it's easier to grow a community at a physical event or an online event? Because, obviously you get, for physical events, it's a lot easier to get like new foot traffic. There's that hype around it, I guess, which hasn't, I guess it might just be me being in Australia. It's just the hype hasn't been as present with some of these online events. So I'd love to know people's opinions about some of the difficulties, whether it's more difficult to grow an online community around something, or whether it's more difficult to grow a physical community. Justin, you seem like you have something that you can say about that.
I'm sorry. I was
The
just,
look on your face.
Okay, I'll get mine out of the way. I'm a big experience guy. I mean, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, and maybe I'm wrong. If you ask anyone, it's about the experience you had, right? So it's like, that is the most memorable. I went to this concert and did this. I went and did this. It's really kind of taking the events and creating experiences within them. You can get that online, but no way. Let's take Dreamhack Beyond again. That was never to take the place of a physical event. The physical events will be the milestones. Dreamhack Beyond will be the journey. Does that make sense? Right. So
Yes.
I think it's much easier to create that community, the loyal community, with the physical experience that you create, because those memories are forever embedded.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a game developer, so I'm going to take the full opposite position on this, right? Like, because the experiences I create are literally in the digital world, and that's sort of how I grew up.
Yeah.
That said, to Justin's point, obviously, like, I have incredible memories at live events that would have never happened in games. I have incredible memories in games that would have never happened at a live event, because the people I met there wouldn't have been able to show up, are in a different place around the world. Things are too busy. I'm too busy in the real life space. I can be at 5 events at the same time digitally, right? I think the growing a community online is always going to be easier. And I think Justin touched on something really important. He said loyal. I don't think loyal is necessarily the right word, but I think I understand what he's getting at. The feeling of being part of something is so much larger in the real world. Well, online, I do an online event. There's a certain level of exhaustion with how many events are happening and everybody is launching their direct, their digital, their online, their whatever it is. And I think people just kind of stopped caring, because it's all the time. They care about the things that they already love. So when something like Dreamhack or PAX or Indicate does something, we remember those things from real life, and we already know we want to be part of those communities, and that's why that works. If you're starting from scratch right now and you're doing digital, you need to be attached to something that people already care about, because otherwise there's no reason to go to that one over anything Justin or Kyle or Stephanie is doing. So I think we got lucky with our timing in Gamedev World, that we started that right before the pandemic and people were already attached to the brand. We could get tons of people at that show, more than I ever could have dreamed of in a physical event. But if I were to start right now, I mean, I see online events with incredible production values, and there's like 600 people watching, and that's the entire event. And of those, 200 care enough that they stick around. So it's a bit of a depends on your circumstances, Magic 8-ball kind of thing.
Yeah, I would say that answer, if you asked me that question 2 or 3 years ago, would be a different answer than now, right? And I think Rami hit like Indicate, Dreamhack, PAX, like if it's live, it's geographic. So there's your pillar. You're going to that. It's not people from Europe are coming over. Slight bits, and stuff, but not the majority are coming over for the event. So like that is your community. PAX started, Penny Arcade started on forums. It was digital. It was a community that then manifested itself into a physical gathering and celebration. That's how we started, and that's where we're going. But if we just came out and started to do digital from scratch right now, the amount of noise that's there, the amount of competition, the amount of how do people know PAX in the countries that we operate in. But if I go to Russia and all of a sudden, hey, we're doing PAX Russia online, they've most likely never been to a PAX. There's not that physical sentiment. They're not going to flock to that right off the bat, So that's some of the challenges these days with just, brand affiliation and just the noise in the market. If you're trying to start from scratch, physical is probably going to be way easier than digital at this point. A couple of years back, probably would have a different answer though.
Stephanie, did you have any thoughts on that?
We launched a new event this year, totally new, and it was great. It was, online, and it was great, and it will remain online. It was conceived of as being digital. It's for younger people, and it worked really, really well. So I think it's possible. I just think I agree with what everybody's saying. The space, for game developers and fans and stuff, is so full of online activities right now. It's, you look at the list and you don't want to do anything. And so it's there's just too big of a, your Thanksgiving plate is just too full. So So in some of the areas where there aren't so many digital events, I think that that's been like we will be sticking with this one for sure.
I think, yeah, I think that is also true. You either need a brand or you need to be targeting a niche that isn't being targeted yet. And there's enough, like we're literally talking to the world right now. It's online. So if it's a demographic that isn't being targeted, if it's a language group that isn't being targeted, if it's an age demographic that isn't being targeted, there's tremendous opportunity right now to do something that helps those people or that connects those people or that galvanizes or activates those people. But if you're going to go for like the gamers, yeah, no, that's not a thing right now.
And I think like for smaller organizations where like it's okay to target a niche, where like an audience of 50 people for one of our smaller events that we're doing makes total sense. But for some of the bigger events, it doesn't make that same kind of sense.
And Rami's right. Loyalty was the wrong word, but he got what I was getting at in regards to, it's like, so for example, I mean, I've been producing events for a long time. We all have, right? But you're not going to tell me I'm not going to get distracted by watching an online game when my buddy pings me to go play Overwatch or go play Call of Duty, right? So I'm like, I'll be like, okay, you know what? I'm good with this panel. I'm good with this event. I'm all right. So that's not that was the loyalty kind of comment I was referring to in regards to where if you're at a physical event, it's kind of like, I'm going to use a gym metaphor. Don't yell at me.
That's okay. So this is a judgment-free zone here.
I use a lot of gym metaphors. It's like if you're at the gym, you're like, I'm here. I might as well make the best of it, right? It's kind of like a physical event. You flew here. You're doing this. You know what? I'm here. I'm going to make the best of it. And then therefore, you kind of get roped into those experiences, right? And then, so that's kind of what it is. It's very distracting. Even when, work from home is distracting to a lot of people, right? So it's that kind of mentality.
Yep. I do actually have a question specifically about indie devs at the moment. So I'd really love to know how it's specifically, like this change in landscape has specifically affected indie devs. So I'll go a little bit more into that. So has the absence of physical events over the past year hindered promotional exercises for indie devs? Because obviously indie devs are a big part of a lot of these events. Or has the pandemic and all these like new online events and this accessibility given them more scope to audiences that they may not have reached otherwise? So for example, like with PAX Online last year, there was a lot of games that may have just been in that region, like just in PAX Oz, for example, but were able to go to a global audience because the event was moved online. And am I making some form of sense, guys?
Right.
Guys and gals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an independent developer, and I consult with independent developers like year round, like 4 hours a day. So I talk to a lot of them, and I think the strange thing about this whole situation is that the answer is both, because indie is such a broad thing that for some of them, losing access to live events was really harsh, right? Losing access to their community, losing access to a place to show off games, to get playtest data, to watch people play your game when it's not done yet. Those things actually harm development in more ways than just the financial or marketing sense. Like being able to stand behind somebody playing your game, getting really excited about it, and they don't know you're the developer, and they look at you and they're like, this is really cool. That's the greatest thing. It's the greatest thing. And honestly, having somebody walk up to your booth, look at the booth and go like, it's heartbreaking, but it also helps you sort of like get a feeling for where your game is and what state it's in. So for a group of developers, this was really painful. And there was no way that any transition to digital events was going to help with that, because it misses the hype, it misses the conversation, it misses the focus of that. For other developers, it was really good. For developers that wouldn't be able to attend events, for developers making smaller games for more targeted audiences, for developers that wouldn't stand a chance being at some of the larger events or showcasing at the larger events. And for them, this was a tremendous opportunity to reach audiences that they never reached before. And indie is nothing if not adaptable. There's been like 40 new showcases that popped up over the last year and a half. And obviously then the larger events and the more specialized events, the larger events like PAX and Dreamhack, the more specialized events like Indiecade, started creating their own language of communicating with their audience. And I think by now we're at a place where things are pretty stable again, and everybody has sort of found their footing in this new world. And again, I hope that sustains, because when the physical events come back, there will be developers that will benefit greatly from that. while others will be really happy with this new sort of status quo situation.
Yeah.
On the publishing side, and because I'm pretty much involved on that side quite a bit too. I agree with Rami in good and bad in regards to, okay, so on the bad side of it is they really like being in with that publisher and pitching their project and kind of really getting to know the body language of the publisher and really just having that kind of break bread mentality and that relationship building moment. That's missed by quite a few people. And that, I mean, the GDCs and the hotel ballrooms and all those kind of things. I mean, I miss it. I love it. And it's really, really important to those, that kind of pitch and process. On the other token, though, on the other side, the pressure to have it done by GDC to pitch is gone, right? Because they're not traveling. They're not, they're not jumping on a plane. They're not having to have their A game on to have their build at a certain milestone to be able to do, so there's good and bad, but it's definitely interesting on how they're all learning from it.
That last one is good and bad in itself, because for a lot of indies, a milestone like GDC being the moment where it had to be done was really helpful in actually getting things done.
True. Yeah.
There's a lot of I know so many indies who are like, I want to have my game ready by Indicate submission, or I want to have my day done by like the moment I have to submit to PAX or to GDC or to like whatever event is, like the event they love, they want to be ready for submission for that. And not having those deadlines has definitely hurt a bunch of indies where they're just like, oh, we didn't need to be done by GDC, so it's done hopefully sometime.
Yeah, that's a good point. On that note, the disclaimer, a lot of games have been pushed back.
True.
That's true. That's true.
Again, small.
So I want to say, like, there's the yes and the no, as Rami and Justin pointed out, but there's also just thinking more like, definitely indie games have a really broad spectrum of the kind of games and where they're coming from. So there's some games and some areas that have been like hugely hard to do online, like escape rooms or alt control games or playable theater. Like, we have a lot of games in that space, and they have like had it's been a lot harder. And true to like innovators that they are, our submissions we have so many like multiplayer online games now that are like Zoom live, 60 people, crazy games going on. So I'm kind of hoping a whole new genre has popped up too, because it's going to be really fun to be playing these. I'll tell you, in October at IndieCade, some of these games that people are going to be able to play are going to be super fun. There's no other way to do it now. So it's really awesome.
Cool. Kyle, did you have any additions to that question that you wanted to really go into?
No, not really. I think everyone's kind of covered it for 360 view. There's good stuff, there's bad stuff, there's game types and stuff that maybe we're just kind of pushing along, but now we're the family play at home, like you said, like the mass things, that genre got a huge boost. I mean, look at Among Us, for example, like sitting around and just being home, the fact that just went through there. So yeah, that's everyone's pretty much said.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the imposter today, guys, by the way. So we actually did have a question coming in from the stream from Alice, kind of relating to this as well. So I'm just going to pop that in. So will there be a change in how easy or expensive it will be for indie developers to exhibit at events in the future? Like, will it be cheaper than it was before the pandemic, at least for a bit? Like, so I just wanted to, sorry, it's on my other screen here. So did that question make sense? Like, is it going to be easier for indie devs to access physical events?
It must be for live events then, right?
Yeah, I think that one's for live events.
We don't charge, so it doesn't make a difference with us.
I honestly, from the point of view from an indie developer, like, I don't think anything is going to change much in terms of like costs or anything. Like, the events are still covering the same costs that they're always covering. They still have the same margins. They're still the same people. It's still the same teams. It doesn't seem to me like the cost will be lower, because from a business point of view, that doesn't necessarily make sense. I don't think they're going to charge up to make up for like the margins in the past, because that would just hurt the business. But I think we're going to see pretty much the same cost there. I'm hoping that when live comes back up, maybe the cost for digital will go down a little, which might be interesting.
Cool. Yep, go for it, Justin.
I'm to Stephanie's point, we don't charge for indie developer booths, so there's no difference on us on our end. We have limited spots because obviously we can't give away the whole show, but we don't charge for those booths.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's change the topic a little bit. What are your thoughts on publishers and larger brands doing their own solo events like EA Play, for example? Do you think that will continue, or will there always be a important place for them in broader consumer events? Oh, everyone's got their thinking face on.
I mean, I didn't.
Go ahead, Rami. Go.
No, I didn't want to start again. I was like, if nobody's going to start talking, I'll start talking. But otherwise, Kyle, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think they're at a crossroads with some of that stuff. I mean, I think everyone, look at, the culminations of, announcement shows and stuff like that, right? And then people sitting on the sides like, well, I don't need to be part of that. I can go do my own. Everyone knows me, they love me, they're going to sit on my side. But then where's the discoverability of things, right? EA for the longest time, they the EA Play, but you didn't see a lot of their titles really at other events unless it was like in an esports form. They're not coming in a booth just for hands-on. They have their own thing. I think now, with everyone coming back to live a little bit more, I think there might be some different thinking about getting out of the house a little bit, whether it be, Nintendo Directs, any things like that. Like they'll do their own stuff, but I feel like now that there's a little bit more screen fatigue and stuff, it's time to get back out and kind of remind everybody who's there, who's around, start touching face to face with the community again instead of just sitting their own, if that makes sense. Kind of go out and almost acquire new users if you're going to do a corporate stance.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the main thing is that this digital thing and the ability of each company to do their own thing from a strategy point of view, it just shows that you can really only reach the audience you already reach, right? And that's a problem that a lot of people are running into with these events. Is at the start of this, it was really exciting when EA would decide to do something, or a Ubisoft would announce a live event. But by now, pretty much the only ones anybody still really cares about are like the platforms, which have a wide variety of content, and award ceremonies, which have a wide variety of content. I think people, the super fans of a brand will watch those shows. But outside of that, I can't keep up with it anymore. I think a lot of the audience doesn't keep up with it anymore. And I think the role of the events is going to shift from being the big like blowout reveal moment of the year to like, okay, we're going to introduce new people to this. We're going to bring people aboard, and we're still going to do these digital moments every now and then for like our own purposes. But discoverability and like hype is very likely going back to live events, to like focused moments, because the sort of shattered, distributed all year round news thing, nobody can keep up with it. Even in the games industry, in the games press, people are just like, there's something happening, presumably somewhere online. I just am not aware of it. That's just not very sustainable.
Anyone else have anything they want to add to that?
I guess it's kind of like asking what's better, PC or Mac, right? They both have their place, right? Depending on what you use them for, right? I've always hated that question, so I use that as an example. I'm like, just own both and do what you need to do. You know what I mean? But my point is, it's like, I think to both their points, it's like the EA Plays, a Sony event that they've had, and all these other things. It's like, that's for their fan appreciation, but there's a bigger, more discoverable thing that's needed for the bigger events, such as the Dreamhack, the PAXs, the E3s, the Indiecade, stuff like that, that's needed. I think the second part of that, though, is, well, yes, there's a place for both, depending on the scope and the goal of both. I think the second part is also, we as event organizers and they as publishers and developers need to realize that we need each other, right? You know what I mean? One would not be there without the other. Right. So event organizers would not be there without the publishers and without the developers supporting their event brand and their logo. And that logo means something with only the people attached to it at the event. Right. And then the publishers and developers need to realize that we are kind of killing ourselves to create this event, to make this something special for everyone to be involved in. Right. So there's been that power shuffle back and forth, and you've seen it more pre-COVID than anything else. Like, oh, well, I'm leaving this event and then I'm going to do this. And then, okay, fine. But I think that power shuffle needs to stop and just realize we both need each other. What does that middle line look like? That's my 2 cents to that. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's a really good way of approaching it. So we're gonna change lanes, change tracks slightly. So how much do you think the content creator scene is going to change the format of future events? Like, will gaming events start to become, I guess, a little bit more like a Comic-Con, where you've got meet and greet areas or ways that that they can engage with these new gaming content creators that have come about in the past year, as or is there a way that it could benefit indie devs, for example? Like, I'd love to get people's thoughts on the content creators in that space. And I feel like Justin has something to say here. Just I don't know, maybe it's just the look on your face, Justin.
Well, damn, I don't want to go first, and I just went last. I'm sorry. Dreamhack, I joke with some meetings and internal. I joke and say Dreamhack is kind of like the MTV of the 90s, where we are kind of like a party event. We're edgy. We focus on probably the late teens through the 20s. In my meetings, when I talk to my staff or the team, or even external to some publishers and developers, I go, if they don't know what Dreamhack is, I'm like, think of what Dreamhack is as a gaming lifestyle event, and we're like the MTV of the 90s, right? So we're built on a lot of content creators. We're built on that whole demographic, from the 16 to 26. That is the community and the memorable experiences that we build our whole show around. So not just to the pubs and the devs, but to the concerts at night, to the film things we do, to our fashion shows, to our cosplay, to all this kind of lifestyle approach that our event takes. So I think that's a really big part of it. It's kind of where the industry is going now. I don't believe it ends and stops and ends with the big guys and girls, right? I think a lot of the micro influencers are just as important, because those are very much, they're the hungry ones, they're the ambitious ones. That we tap into a lot of those, and we have tons of those relationships. So I'm a big advocate for that whole approach, and it's worked well for us. Well, pre-COVID.
Kyle, I'd love to get your thoughts on this topic, because I believe that PAX has had the content creator pass for quite a number of years, at least in Australia. Yeah. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this one.
I mean, back in the day, if before content creators were what they are now, I mean, like, the show was founded by two, right? So, that was kind of our ethos when we came through things. I think, we've had the names like Septicai and everybody up from that side, some of the larger names, and down to the smaller ones. We've had ambassadors. We try to bring a lot of kind of the up and comers up to the arena. I think there's a place for it all. I think the difference is giving everyone an opportunity to get what they want at a show, right? Some people really love influencers and they want to be part, and they want to go check out, they want to have things, but some people don't. So it's actually towing that fine line where you're not dominated by one part of it or not. I think there's a place for everything, right? Everything Justin just mentioned, the fashion shows, the cosplays, the concerts, that's just a well-rounded event celebrating a lifestyle and a passion, which is gaming, but it's diversifying it enough so one is not overtaking the other, unless that is like your theme for the event or something, and that's what you're trying to do. And my thing is just make sure everyone has a chance to do what they want, see who they want, or if the chance not be burdened or have it shoved in their face so much where it's becoming a bad experience. I think that's the towing the line that I look for.
This question always hurts me a little bit, because I'm like, we make content. That's my job. I make content and then people play it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, obviously this weird sort of like symbiotic relationship has come to be between game developers and content creators, and we benefit from them. They need us to make content, but then often get big enough that they don't actually need us to make content anymore. So it's this, I don't think the games industry has actually figured out what we think about this, besides we better just accept that this is a thing now. And a lot of us have good relationships with a number of influencers, but I can't help but, like, it's my eternal pet peeve that we've divided it into developers and content creators. So I'm just going to call them influencers or streamers or whatever. Beyond that, I'm going to be a grumpy old man here.
That's okay. You can be a grumpy old man here. Okay. We don't judge you. Stephanie, do you think there's a way that that content creators could be engaged to benefit indie devs?
Well, lots of them are. I mean, lots of them are playing indie games and want to, and will show up at indie events and stuff like that. So I think that's definitely happening. But I'm with Rami. It's like really hard for you know, we too consider ourselves like that's what we are. We're content creators. And so, you know, we are influencers. Like that is the nature of what IndieCade is. We're about, I mean, especially compared to anybody else here, like what we're really about is our curation of the games and our selection of them, and then our being able to show them to people. And so, you know, that's what it is. So it is, that division really is a little annoying, but you know, we have plenty of good relationships with influencers and content creators, and lots of our developers want to be them. So I think it just needs to kind of like, also once everybody's not online all the time too, it kind of needs to pan out and see exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Cool. So, okay. So we're going to be running out of time just soon. We've got about 10 minutes left. So let's go on to the next question. So, okay. So what do you think the biggest challenges are going back to live events? And we're just having a bit of technical difficulties with Justin, but he'll be back shortly.
Wow, this is a cool effect. Oh, no, hello. Yeah, in terms of difficulties with with going back to live events, I think it's trust, right? I think that's the biggest question that everybody has is sort of like trust, a sense of safety, a sense of coming back to these things. And I think, at least for me, and I hear this in the developer community, is like, how can we ensure that we are safe, that the people we're with are safe, that the environment is safe? And I think this is a major question that live events are going to have to solve for in the next period of time, is like, how do we make sure that people feel safe, that the events exude that feeling of like, if you are here, you are going to be safe. Beyond that, I don't know, like obviously this is not, going to live events has never been a thing that I do, because I've never done a live event. But from the developer side, that's kind of what it's looking like at the moment. It's like, hey, are we comfortable with this yet? And I think a large part of that is going to come from, you know, how much we trust the people, the organizers that we're working with, and how much we trust the sort of solutions in place to ensure that people are safe. Over time, that'll obviously be less and less of a question, but I think for now it's sort of in that weird middle space. Beyond that, is there anything like big? Because it feels like y'all are ready to get back and like roar or storm up and just go do the awesome stuff that you do, right? Or is there like a big thing that I'm missing?
I mean, go ahead, Justin.
Oh no, I was just going to ask what I missed, because apparently my dog knocked my out.
I
got disconnected.
All good, all good. We're talking about what the biggest challenges are going back into live events.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'll take this one as I'm about to march into it, right? I think Rami hit the nail on the head when it comes from trust. I think, you know, and not just keep harping on the brand stuff, like we're, you know, not to be arrogant about it, but like we're PAX. We do things the way we do, and we do them the way we do because they're right, and we do it 100%. And if I can't give you that guarantee and you don't trust me on that, then I've lost. So the health and safety aspect, like we haven't brought it up today, we haven't said the word, but like COVID, like, yeah, that's the thing. And following the CDC and planning for months and months and months, and the ever-changing rules and the ever-changing, you know, forms of what we're going through, that is the thing. So, you know, I'm happy to say that, like, you know, I feel we're in a good spot. We're definitely aiming for a much lower attendance. You know, it'll probably be about like, you know, it'll look different, but this world looks different right now. So I think it'll right size itself to what's safe. And to know that I have more precautions and set up stuff for PAX West coming into it in a couple of weeks than any major sporting event, and now the concerts are starting to adopt, makes me feel good, because there's not a single thing I can think of that we haven't done to ensure the safety of everyone's there. Because while it's, I guess, technically not, in my heart, every single person who walks through that door, dev, caterer, union person, attendee, they're my responsibility to keep them safe. And if we can't do that as a brand, and if we can't do that as a show and an organizer, that's the biggest hurdle for me right now. When people feel safe to come back, that's fine. We'll always have digital implements to be able to, if you can't make it into the country because of restrictions, or you're just not feeling safe, maybe you have a health issue where you can't get vaccinated, but you're still a dev and you want to do stuff, giving those avenues and options to do that when you're not there, but sitting there welcoming with open arms when you're ready, and building that trust back if you're still a little nervous. That's, to me, the biggest thing, and that was my biggest point coming into this.
Justin, Stephanie, do you have any thoughts on some of our challenges going back into live events?
I mean,
I only
Kyle,
think it's challenging during, like in terms of the COVID safety things. I think like live events are just what they are. They're live events, and and I also think the other challenge is a lot of people really want to come back to live events. So I think the challenge is just like holding on or figuring out, like Kyle and Pax has done, how to do them now until we can go back to things that are, what people are more familiar with. So.
Yeah, I got nothing more to add. I agree with Kyle's comment on trust. You know what I mean? It's like whether it's PAX, whether it's Dreamhack, whether it's IndieCade, doesn't matter. We built a community through our events and built those experiences, and we have a duty to be making sure that these fans and these people, I mean, not just fans, companies, participants, sponsors, partners, everyone, we have a duty to make sure that they're safe. And if we, as Dreamhack specifically, if we don't feel that, no matter how hard we work, if anything happens, we won't do it. Just period. We'll wait. For us, we're all in business for doing this, right? We all have business models. There's monies and ROIs and KPIs and whatever acronym you want to add to this thing, right? But at the end of the day, the long-term stability of what it means to treat your clients and fans and everyone else very special and very safe is more important. So if we have to move something or cancel something or do something until we all feel safe, we'll do it. So, but yeah, I agree with Kyle. It comes down to the trust. The brand is built.
Yep. So that was our last question for today, just because we do have to wrap up in a minute. But we are going to go around just so people can figure out where to find you on social media. So Rami, we'll go with you first, like where people can find you, your event, if they want to follow along with what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm Rami Ismail. You can find me on Twitter, THA_Rami. That's my name. I have a podcast called The Habibis, which is for Arab game developers. If you want to come hang out, come listen to that. I just started a new newsletter called Leveling the Playing Field. You can find that at ltpf.ramiismail.com. It's free. It's developer advice. So if you are a game developer and you're interested in learning more, go check that out.
Cool. Stephanie?
Well, I think people would just have to email me directly at stephanie@indiecade.com, and go to indiecade.com, INDIECADE. And we have everything posted and all of our links and all of our upcoming events. We have a lot of things upcoming. We also have a really active, fabulous Twitch channel that goes on all year. And we have some amazing shows like Beyond Screens that are focusing on things like escape rooms or big games or, people LARPing and and also video games and digital games. But our Twitch channel has lots of regular weekly shows that are great, and I'll lead to our Discord and to everything else.
Cool. And last but not least, Justin. Oh wait, no, wait, I've done this wrong. Sorry, Kyle.
Oh.
It's different on the Zoom call, like compared to the panels. I'm so sorry, guys.
No, let's do Justin first, because I pretty much don't have anything.
Okay, great. I am so sorry.
I like to say Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm on all those, so feel free to find me, but I am not socially active on all those. I have a workaholic FOMO kind of disease that my lovely wife puts up with. So unless it's work related, I'm not doing it. So in other words, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm always on there. So glad to do that. If not LinkedIn, Dreamhack, Creative VP, anytime through there, you can reach me, or portfolio director for Good Shepherd Entertainment. I'm not hard to find. My information's out there. So.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you. Lead off, man. I'm just like Justin. I'm on social media. I don't do Twitter. You can find me if you want to, but I'm pretty boring. You can probably see some pictures of like food I cook. Otherwise, Kyle at ReadPop follows PAX. They're way more, the guys who do that are way more on Twitter, and then obviously Twitch, YouTube, whatever we can do, but always open.
Can I do one more thing?
Sure.
You can tell that I'm not a particularly experienced event organizer. I forgot to plug Gamedev World, which is the event that I'm actually on behalf of.
Yep,
so
definitely plug that.
If you want to go check out Gamedev World, it's a game developer focused event where we have talks in 8 different languages, live translated. We also do charity events and other events to connect developers to each other across the language barrier. You can find it at gamedev.world or at Gamedev World on Twitter.
Cool. And for some reason you want to follow me, I am Cora Berry, CoraBerry. Yeah, there's 3 R's on Twitter and just about everything else. I live on social media, unlike some people here. Yeah, I don't. I need more of a life. But either way, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights. And again, if you are interested in seeing more events like this, join the Xsolla Diamond Club. It has been a wonderful day, and well, it's the start of my day. I don't know about everyone else. And we will see you next time, I guess. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.